Welcome to Daily News in AI Agents, the place to get a quick roundup of the most exciting developments in AI agents every day. Subscribe to our LinkedIn newsletter today in the link below to stay activated.
Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? We're going to be exploring all things AI today, and we've got a pretty crazy mix of sources this time. News articles, blogs, even a podcast or two, all trying to make sense of where AI is headed and the impact it's having already.
Yeah, it's really a fascinating time to be following AI. We're seeing this huge shift from, the theoretical potential to actual real-world applications. It's changing how we work, how we create, even how we chill and relax.
Definitely. So first up, let's talk about these AI agents. Remember like those early chatbots? A little clunky, a little robotic?
A little bit.
Well, they've come a long way. There's this article from Dataflock, The Evolution of AI Agents. From simple LLMs to autonomous systems, it walks us through how these agents are getting way more independent, way more complex.
And the interesting thing is they're starting to interact with each other.
Right.
So you have these dynamic AI systems that can actually make decisions and even take actions in the real world. It's not just about answering your questions anymore. It's about like AI taking on these big complex tasks and managing entire processes.
That's right. And a perfect example of that is Amazon's new multi-agent orchestrator.
Oh yeah, I read about that.
The Decoder did a piece on it. Basically, it's a tool to manage all these interactions between multiple AI agents, kind of like a conductor leading an orchestra.
Right.
But instead of musicians, it's coordinating a whole symphony of AI.
That is wild.
Right. And what's interesting is you have Amazon taking this like proprietary approach. And then Microsoft is going a totally different direction. They released this thing called AIOps Lab. MarkTech Post called it an open source framework for building and managing AI agents. So now you've got this whole question, which approach is going to lead to faster innovation, wider adoption?
It's like a philosophical race almost.
Right.
Control versus collaboration.
Exactly. And the outcome could have a huge impact on how AI develops.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Something to keep an eye on for sure.
For sure. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. How is AI impacting, some of the industries we all know? I was listening to the AI podcast. They had an episode called, Hey, Mr. DJ, Super Hi-Fi's AI applies smarts to sound. Cool.
And it's about this company that's using AI to personalize radio.
Sure.
Like, imagine a radio station that actually knows your taste in music so well. Like, it feels like it was made just for you.
That's pretty wild to think about. It could be great, a super engaging listening experience. But then there's the other side of that coin.
Totally.
Does it create echo chambers?
Yeah.
Where people are only exposed to information that reinforces what they already think.
That's such a good point. And it's not just radio that's changing. Etsy is using AI to improve their search function.
Oh, interesting.
There's an episode on the Practical AI podcast about it called AI for Search at Etsy. And this ties into what Google's doing with their planned AI mode for search. Data Economy had an article about that.
That's going to be huge. Think about search engines that understand intent and context, not just keywords.
Right. It could completely change how we find information. But then again, what about data privacy?
Yeah.
And the potential for algorithmic bias?
Absolutely.
Okay. And speaking of AI's impact.
Data Economy also had this article about how Apple AirPods might actually replace fitness trackers. They're like integrating all these advanced health features, heart rate sensors, temperature sensors, all powered by AI. Pretty soon, those little earbuds might be all you need to track your health data.
It's a good example of how AI is just becoming so seamlessly integrated into like everyday devices. But then as these devices collect more and more personal data, the need for really strong security and privacy measures becomes even more important.
Totally. Okay, so get this. Jan LeCun, who leads AI research at Meta, he believes that the next generation of AI needs to develop emotions.
Emotions.
Emotions. The Decoder had a piece on it. LeCun argues that emotions are, essential for AI to set goals, understand consequences, and just generally interact with the world in a more human-like way.
It's a super interesting concept. It really challenges our traditional view of AI as this purely logical thing.
Doesn't it?
Imagine AI that can actually understand and respond to human emotions. It could completely change how we interact with machines.
I know, it's mind-blowing. And speaking of pushing the boundaries, OpenAI just gave a $1 million grant to Duke University. AI News had a report on it.
That's interesting.
The grant will fund a study on AI and morality, exploring whether AI can actually grasp moral concepts like fairness, justice, empathy.
It's a big question. If we can create AI that actually understands and acts ethically, that could have a huge impact on how we use AI to solve some of the world's biggest problems.
For sure. But there's also this concern about AI perpetuating existing biases. The Next Web had a piece called Unfair Decisions by AI Could Make Us Indifferent to Bad Behavior by Humans. And it really digs into how algorithms can inherit and amplify societal biases.
Right.
And that can lead to unfair outcomes, maybe even desensitize us to injustice.
Yeah, it's a big concern, especially as AI plays a bigger role in decision-making, in areas like hiring or lending, even criminal justice. Making sure AI systems are fair and unbiased is key to building trust.
Okay, before we jump into the whole regulatory landscape and efforts to control AI, let's take a breath for a second.
Yeah.
Out of everything we've talked about so far, what's really struck you, like the most significant development, or maybe the most concerning trend, what are you thinking about?
It's like drinking from a fire hose, right?
I know, right? So much happening so fast. And speaking of things moving quickly, things are getting interesting on the regulatory front.
Oh, yeah?
Data Economy reported that Italy slapped OpenAI with a 15 million euro fine for GDPR violations with ChatGPT.
Oh, wow.
Those chatbots might be a little too chatty with personal data.
It really shows you the tension between this super fast AI advancement and the need for solid regulations. Governments are trying to catch up, trying to set guidelines for responsible AI, but tech often moves faster than the law.
And then on the other hand, you have this really interesting contrast. While OpenAI is getting fined in Europe, Elon Musk's xAI just got a massive $6 billion in funding.
$6 billion.
$6 billion. TechCrunch reported on it. It's like mixed messages much.
It is interesting, right? You have this huge financial push to just keep developing AI, but then at the same time, more and more people are realizing the risks. So finding that balance, encouraging innovation, but making sure it's done responsibly.
Right, right. So are there any solutions out there? I mean, OpenAI, despite their GDPR troubles, they're working on this thing called deliberative alignment.
Deliberative alignment.
Yeah, MarkTech Post had an article on it. Basically, it's a way to train LLMs to think through their responses before they actually say anything, almost like building these safety checks into the AI's thought process.
So instead of just filtering out the bad stuff after it's already been said, they're trying to build in some kind of ethical reasoning right from the start.
Exactly. It's a step towards AI we can trust, but it's still early days.
Right.
But AI is getting so complex, how do we even keep track of what it's doing as it learns? How can we be sure it's staying on the right path?
Well, that's where the whole idea of AI observability comes in.
Right, AI observability.
As AI gets more and more sophisticated and takes on these autonomous roles, observability becomes essential. You need the tools to monitor AI workloads, understand how it's making decisions, spot any potential problems, any biases.
And it's a growing field. TechCrunch reported that CoreLogix, which is an observability platform, acquired Aporia, which focuses specifically on AI observability. It's like having a security camera and a watchdog for your AI.
Yeah. It shows you that the industry is realizing how important AI security and control are.
For sure, for sure. But it's not all easy. TechCrunch also had this article about how quantization, which is this technique to make AI more efficient, can have some downsides.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're basically shrinking these AI models to make them run faster and use less energy, but sometimes it can make them less accurate.
So it's a trade-off.
Always a trade-off. It's like we're trying to create these powerful, sophisticated AI systems, but then we also have to make sure they're reliable, predictable.
It really is a lot to think about. We've gone from talking about personalized radio to AI with emotions, and now we're talking about how to keep these super complex systems under control.
It really is a lot.
It reminds you that this field is constantly changing. What we know about AI today might be totally different tomorrow.
It's what makes it so interesting, right? So before we move on to our final thoughts about the future of AI, I'd love to hear your perspective. With all this rapid development and the challenges it brings, what role do you think everyday people should have in shaping how AI is used and developed?
Yeah, it really makes you think about the bigger picture, huh? Like, we're
Yeah.
not just talking about lines of code here. We're talking about shaping these tools that are going to have a massive impact on our lives.
I think that's the key takeaway here. AI isn't something out of science fiction anymore. It's woven into our everyday experiences. Like, think about it, those recommendations you see online, those algorithms that shape your newsfeed. AI is already influencing how we see and interact with the world. Right. And as these technologies get more advanced, that influence is only going to grow. So, like, what can we actually do about it? You brought up a great question earlier. What role should, everyday people play in all this?
Yeah. And it's easy to feel like these decisions are made in like boardrooms,
Mm.
labs that are far removed from our lives. But I think everyday people, individuals, they actually have a huge role to play in shaping the ethical development and use of AI.
It's like we're all contributing to this code, even if we aren't programmers, Our choices, our voices, our demands for transparency and accountability. It all sends a message about what kind of future we want to see with AI.
I think that's a great point. It's about being informed, asking questions, and holding those companies that are developing these technologies, holding them accountable. We need to push for regulations that put people first and make sure that AI is being used for good.
And so much of this comes down to education, right? The more we understand about AI, the more we can participate in these conversations, advocate for responsible development.
Absolutely. We need to break AI down, demystify it, get rid of all the jargon, and make these topics accessible to everybody. Because at the end of the day, AI is going to impact all of us.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. We saw how AI agents are becoming more sophisticated, how it's reshaping all kinds of industries, and, all the ethical challenges that come with it.
It's definitely a landscape that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
And it's so important to stay informed, to stay engaged. The decisions we make today, they're going to decide what the future of AI looks like.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of AI. We hope you found it insightful, maybe even a little thought-provoking.
And remember, AI's future isn't set in stone. It's up to all of us to shape it in a way that benefits humanity. So keep asking questions, keep exploring, keep the conversation going.
Until next time, keep diving deep.